compulsory Social Security with 0.4 percentage point, and information and communication with 0.2 percentage point. On the demand side, only government final consumption expenditure and breeding stocks and orchard development posted positive growth rates in the second quarter of 2020 with 22.1% and 2.2% growth respectively. Meanwhile, durable equipment posted the largest contraction in the second quarter of 2020 with a decline of 62.1%. This was followed by valuables with a contraction of 56.9%, exports of services with a contraction of 43.4%, and imports of goods declining by 42.3%. For the second quarter of 2020, major contributors to the decline were household final consumption expenditure with 10.7 percentage points, followed by construction with 5.5 percentage points, and durable equipment with 4.2 percentage points. On the other hand, contributors to the GDP growth from the expenditure side were net exports with 4.9 percentage points, government final consumption expenditure with 3.1 percentage points, and breeding stocks and orchard development with 0.04 percentage point contribution. The Philippine Statistics Authority appreciates your presence in the second quarter 2020 National Accounts Press Conference, and we look forward to meeting you again on the 10th November 2020 when we report the performance of the Philippine economy for the third quarter of 2020. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you very much, Yusek Mapa. Flashed on the screen right now is a link to download the materials for this press briefing. You may also refer to the QR code displayed on the screen. In addition, we remind every viewer that this is streamed live on our PSA Facebook page, and the highlights are tweeted on our Twitter page, PSA GovPH. In a few minutes, we will open the floor for questions. Please use the chat box or the raise hand feature to ask questions. Once recognized, please state your name and your organization before asking your question. We now open the floor. From Inquirer, Mr. Bendevera.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? Because I'm using a new laptop, so I'm not sure if this is working.
Yes, Ben.
Thank you, sir. NS Mapa, good morning, sir. May I ask, sir, what were the nominal GDP figures at the end of the first half and also during the first quarter?
Real, you're talking of the current value?
Okay, yes, sir, yes, sir. And if you could also compare them, sir, to the previous year. And sir, if we could also compare the latest on a year-on-year basis, sir.
Okay, first.
So we can visualize the 16.5% drop. Yes, sir.
Okay. For the first half, the first quarter and second quarter, our real GDP dropped by 9%. So yes, the combined reduction in the GDP compared to 2019 is 9%. That's the combination of the first quarter and the second quarter.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bendevera. Next question is from Mr. Michael Flores.
Hi, good morning, Yusek. Yusek, just to clarify, this is the worst based on the 1981 time series data. I wonder if you have data going back to before 1981 so that we can compare it on how bad the economic performance was during the quarter?
Okay. In the quarterly for the quarterly series, our quarterly series actually we started reporting it Q1 of 1981. However, for the annual series, we have data as far back as 1946. But of course, we are looking at annual data. So given the drop of 16.5 for the quarter, we can compare back to the first quarter of 1981. As I mentioned, this is the lowest, the biggest drop, in other words.
And this is historic, no, based on the 1981 time series data, just to make sure that we're accurate in our reporting.
Quarterly series, which started Q1 of 1981.
Okay. Thank you, Yusek.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Miss Jerisa Valencia.
Good morning. Sir, the growth was lowest since 1981. Sir, what happened in 1981?
No, that's the start of the series.
Oh, okay.
That is the start. But the last time, if you ask, the last time we had double-digit negative growth, that happened in Q3 of 1984, which is minus 10.7%, and followed by Q1 of 1985, negative 10.5%. So those were the two quarters based on our records with double-digit negative growth.
A follow-up, sir. Financial institutions were among major contributors to growth in the second quarter. What explains this?
Well, you have higher loans and demand on the financial services. So those are the contributors for the growth in the second quarter in this sector.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next question is from Mr. Ralph Rivas.
Hi po, good morning. Yusek, I know sinagot mo na to kanina na since 1981 yung record natin. But I'm just curious kung ano yung annual na drop. If I'm not mistaken, that's 1948 and 1967, di ba, sir?
Yung kung lagay natin na year on year, yung annual talaga, ang record nga namin no, nasa 1946. Ang pinakamataas, 1984, minus 7%. Followed by 1985, minus 6.9%. But this is a full year growth rate.
So, sir, we don't have the numbers of the 1948 and the 1967, sir?
We have the numbers, but I don't think those are the...
we can compare na. Pero just curious lang, sir. I'm just...
I will have to go back with you on that because I have to look at the time series.
Okay, sir. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. Next question is from Mr. Warren de Guzman.
Hello, good morning, Yusek. I just wanted to ask, could you describe the GDP performance in terms of, or compared to the rest of the region?
We have reports already from other economies. And I think yesterday, Indonesia reported their second quarter GDP growth. And just to be clear about it, so for year on year, we recorded negative 16.5%, Indonesia minus 5.32%, Singapore minus 12.6%, Hong Kong minus 9%. So those are the figures that I have from other economies. Warren?
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Warren. Next question is from Miss Kai Ordinario.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, can you give us some historical comparatives on the growth of services and industry? Were they the lowest ever, and what was the rate of contraction prior to this year? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kai. Just checking. For industry, so we have 22.9% negative growth this quarter. This is the lowest again since the beginning of the series, and the last time we had a similar number is or was quarter one 1985, wherein industry dropped by 21.6%. For services, the 15.8% is also the lowest since the beginning of the 1981 series. And the last time we had the double digit closer to this number was quarter three of 1984, recording 10.8% negative growth rate for services.
Thank you, Miss Kai. Next question is from Mr. Raul Dancel.
Good morning po, sir. No,
Good morning.
I just need a quotes on the reasons why we're seeing this deep slump in our economy. No, I can see that yung restaurants and hotels yung gains nila. I mean, they're down 68%. No, and then you have transportation. I assume this is because of the lockdown.
Yes, correct.
Okay. With such a deep slump, no, can we see a recovery anytime soon for these sectors?
Well, it's from the official statistics point of view, it's early to tell at this point the data. Right now, we are collecting data on July. We will be processing them and reporting them I think, in the next weeks or so. The July round, which is the first month of the third quarter, will still be reported in the coming weeks.
Last na lang po, sir. We can see a lot of people who lost their jobs and businesses migrating online. No, they're starting businesses, and we see a lot of logistics firms having. I guess I can see a boom. No, see, I can see many tricycles, lalo moving everywhere na nagdi-deliver dito sa malapit na sa amin. No, has that had an impact on growth, yung online migration ng ating mga negosyo tsaka services?
The data that we have right now, we are seeing, as I mentioned in the report, communication and information increasing or posting a 6.6 growth. So what the data is telling us here, based on our survey results, of course, there's a high demand for telecommunication services during the second quarter due to the surge in the demand for online entertainment, e-commerce, work from home arrangement, and online education. So those are the information that led to this growth of 6.6% for information and communication.
Maraming salamat po. Have a good day.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Ms. Lois Calderon. Okay, if Ms. Lois is not there, Mr. Mikhail Flores, please.
Yusek, just to clarify, we are officially into recession this quarter, and this is the first time since 1991 that we are under such conditions.
Correct. That's correct information.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Mr. Warren de Guzman.
Good morning again, Musica. Thanks for answering my question earlier. I'm just curious, we're used to seeing the GDP numbers being presented by the PSA and NEDA. I'm wondering, when was the last time you did this, the PSA by itself?
Warren, I just joined PSA last year, so I don't have a good historical perspective. I think I was informed that the economic managers will have an 11 a.m. Press conference after this.
Thank, thank you, Sir Warren. Again, we have Miss Lois Lane.
Hello. Good morning. Can you hear me? Good
Yes.
morning, Dr. Mapa. Good to see you again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I cannot. Okay, I'm sorry I couldn't join you via video. Hello. Can you hear me? Sorry, sir, my signal is choppy.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Dr. Mapa. My question would be, the government has projections actually of a contraction for the year, and with these deep decline for the quarter, how much growth are we looking at? I mean, how much growth we're looking at for the next 2 quarters, just so we could soften the contraction. Would you have projections already, Dr. Mapa? Thanks very much.
Well, based on record, as I mentioned, the first half GDP growth is negative 9.0%, and well, what we're doing is just basically computing for some estimates for the second quarter or projection. So, well, to achieve the lower end of the DBCC estimate of minus 3.4, the second half should grow by at least 1.9%. That's our estimate at this point.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mapa.
Thank you, Miss Lane. Next question, please. Mr. Ben De Vera.
Hi, sir. Good morning, sir. Again, sir, how much was the value of the Philippine economy in nominal terms at the end of the first half, sir? In trillions of pesos, sir, if you have it. And if you also have the value a year ago. Thank you, sir.
Ben, for a while.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. For the first semester
Yes, sir.
of 2020, at current price, our GDP is uh, 8.6 trillion, about 8.6 trillion.
Yes, sir.
The previous first semester 2019, that is 9.28 trillion.
Yes, sir. Noted, sir. And then, sir, I think the by year end it will be around 17.1 trillion. So, ano ba, sir, when we measure the nominal, nadadagdag siya every quarter. Tama po ba yung pag-intindi ko, sir? So, yun nga po. So, ngayon, right now, the economy as of the first half would be 8.6 trillion. And then when we translate the 60.5% drop in GDP, sir, ba yun yung 9.3 from 9.28 trillion a year ago? Is that correct, ano, sir? Is that a correct
What I am quoting, the figures that I'm quoting to you, Ben,
yes, sir.
is the current
Current
GDP at the current prices. So the 16.5 is the negative growth for
Yes,
the
sir.
GDP at constant prices.
Constant prices. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. De Vera. Next question is from Mr. Mikael Flores.
Yusek, good morning again. I understand PSA doesn't do impact analysis, but to the best that you can you describe for us why the economy declined by as much in the period?
Well, partly because of the lockdown, you were seeing a drop in the uh, sectors, no, the particularly the industry group. So we are seeing that because of the April May uh, lockdown. So that's the data that we are actually receiving from our respondents firms in particular.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Miss Kai Ordinario.
Yes, sir. Okay na. Nasagot na. Thank you.
And thank you, Miss Kai. Next from Mr. Warren de Guzman.
Hi again, Yusek. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to catch the answer to the earlier question. What is required to hit the target range for the full year growth of government, which is -2 to negative 3.4% contraction? And um, in your view, given that we are still under MECQ, is that a feasible target?
The first question, to achieve that minus 3.4, based on our projection here, the second half GDP growth should grow at least by 1.9%. The second half, at least 1.9%. Now, on the effect, as I've said, too early to tell from the official statistician's point of view, primarily because the data that we have right now are actually data from July. We are just starting the data collection of the economic indicators for August. But as soon as these are available, we will report so that you can have a clear picture as to what happened in August.
Thank you, Sir Warren. Next, Sir Ben De Vera.
Hi, sir. Also, just to clarify, sir, since the Q1 decline was 0.7% and then Q2 was 16.5. So can we say, sir, that the first half the average is 8.6? Is that when we say the first half decline would be 8.6?
The decline is about 9%. No, because you
9%.
have to sum up the amount for the first quarter and the second quarter. Not
Okay,
just
sir. Noted, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next, Miss Kai Ordinario.
Sir, what's the possibility of revising the numbers? How much of the available data was available when you computed the GDP data?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. If you look at our historical report, there is always a revision because every time we report our data, our GDP growth, for example, we never get 100% information. Of course, there are still indicators that would arrive after the cutoff. So right now, when we computed for this GDP numbers, our data weighted, we are getting about 80%. So when you say probability of a revised GDP estimate, that is always the case, as in the previous quarters. So we always revise as soon as new information from our sample are available.
Thank you, Miss Kai. Recognizing once again Mr. Ben De Vera.
Yes, sir, just following up on Kai's question, sir. Yun nga, sir, usually meron naman pong revisions. Pero sir, during the first and second quarters, even we have the lockdown, mas malaki po ba yung margin of error, yung likelihood na yun nga po, mas malaki yung like for example from 0.2 yung contraction early estimate naging 0.7, or there's a 0.5 percentage point or something na difference, and like in previous years parang konti, hindi naman sir ganun ka drastic. Would you say that it's much more difficult to really get to compile all these data these past 6 months perhaps? Thank you, sir.
Well, yes. If you look at our history of the revision, the adjustment, one quarter after the first quarter, 0.5 in absolute value, 0.5% percentage points, I think the highest. And I have to admit that the data that there's really high volatility of the data, even from our survey at this point. And as I've said, we are starting with 80%. I think this is also more or less the same number when we reported the GDP during the first quarter. So while this is a common indication in the data, not just for the Philippine Statistics Authority, but also for other national statistical offices. Revision is a practice once you have additional data from our sample. But right now, you're right. Of course, data from the firms that are coming in, there is really high volatility if you look at even the time series of individual firms. So that would have impact on our revised numbers.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Ms. Shariza Valencia.
Sir, just to clarify, so sir, are you saying that the second quarter headline rate is still most likely to be revised downward still because of mobility restrictions in Q2 and along with data gathering restrictions?
No, the revision. What I'm saying is that if you look at our historical data, we are always there's always revision. But the revision is really dependent on the information that we are collecting. So we have revision on the positive side, meaning the growth is adjusted upward. There are periods wherein the growth is adjusted downward. So the revision will really depend on the data that will be reported from the firms that have not yet submitted their information.
Just a follow-up, sir, the Q1 decline was comparable to the downturn during the Asian financial crisis. What about the Q2? To what phenomenon in Philippine economic history can we compare this with?
Well, as I've said, based on our quarterly data using the 1981 series, this is the largest decline. So I cannot compare it with the other periods because this is the largest.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Valencia. Next question, Mr. Cliff Venzon.
Hello, good morning, sir. Sir, I understand that we're doing quarterly reporting, but I'm just curious if we have statistics or indications on how the economy performed in the month of April when the country was practically on lockdown, the peak of the lockdown. Thank you, sir.
The GDP, we are reporting this on a quarterly basis. So we don't have a GDP report, let's say for April, a GDP for May, June. But you can also look at other indicators, although I cannot provide you with such. We have monthly indicators such as our survey of industries. That is on a monthly basis. We have also our trade data, which is on a monthly basis. So those are information that you can use if you want to look at what would be the impact, for example, on the economy during April, May. But for the GDP, it's really for the whole quarter.
Thank you, sir. Next question, Ms. Marisa Ramos.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Go ahead.
Question lang po on the since 1981 lang po yung quarterly data. Is there a possibility na ma-extend yung quarterly data natin earlier than 1981? Thank you.
Well, officially we cannot do that because that's our yung aming data kasi is 1981 yung quarter. Well, from the point of view of estimation, if you are into time series, you can actually do that looking at the previous years. Pwede mong matry yung estimation siguro. But for the PSA official report, our quarterly data started Q1 1981.
I see. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question, Mr. Jim Gomez.
Wait, I cannot unmute. Okay.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Yusek Dennis.
Morning.
Sir, I'd like to ask, no, I know you're in touch with the other governments. In terms of Southeast Asia, how many countries have fallen into technical or otherwise recession? And where does the Philippines stand in that list?
I apologize. I cannot answer your question right now because what I have with me are the reports from the countries for the second quarter. So, but we can actually look at their first quarter report and confirm that. But right now, as I answered the previous questions, only the second quarter GDP growth for other economies in Asia.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just a quick follow-up. I know that NEDA does the interpretation of this data, but if I can ask you, historically, data-wise, how bad is this fall? No, and how difficult will it be for the country to recover in the third and fourth quarter, considering that quarantine will likely be there for the rest of the year?
I will answer the first question. Maybe you can ask at the 11 a.m.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Second one. As I mentioned in the report, the minus 16.5 based on our 1981 series is the largest drop.
Okay. Thank you, Yusek.
Okay. Thank you po. Next question is from Melissa Lopez.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Melissa from CNN Philippines Digital Team. Sir, I'd just like to ask if you would be able to share what are the key differences to the conditions in the Philippines versus its neighboring states? Because when you mentioned earlier the figures that we had the biggest fall so far. Like, what were the key differences during the period?
Well, I cannot really answer that. I apologize. Researchers can actually look at the other data so that you can have a good conclusion, no, in terms of your question. Currently, I'm just reporting, for example, the first quarter, second quarter for the Philippines, and what I have is the second quarter for the other economies in Asia. So the conditions, we really have to look at that. Currently, that information is not available to me.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from Miss Lois Lane. Miss Lane.
Hello. Hi. I'm sorry. I've been having problems with my settings, audio settings. Yes. Yeah. I understand, Dr. Mapa, that your time series data would be good up until 1981 for the quarterly, but then you also have annual data dating back to the 1940s. So can we have, Dr. Mapa, the steepest contraction, at least in wartime era? Just so I could compare, if 16.5 historically would be the worst. Would you have the steepest decline during wartime era, and exactly what year, sir? Thanks very much.
Okay. Based on our historical data here, as I mentioned, annually the negative growth rates occurred in 1984, minus 7%, and then 1985 minus 6.9%, and then we have 1991 minus 0.4%, and then 1998 minus 0.5%. So those are the years wherein we had negative growth. For 1947, for example, which is the start of our series, the GDP grew by 38.4%, and then 1948, 15.9%. So these are the only 4 years wherein we had negative growth: 1984, 85, 91, and 98.
Sir, in the 1940s, the economy still grew. Sorry, sir, I couldn't see the historical kasi po sa website, so I'm verifying with you. So in the 1940s, still positive growth, sir.
Yeah. You can download the historical data. Just click that GDP and then go to time series. You can download the Excel sheets. We have the quarterly data and then the annual data.
Thank you, Miss Lane. Next question. Mr. Warren de Guzman.
Hello, Yusek again. I just wanted to ask if you could also discuss the decline on the demand side for household consumption, capital formation, exports, and imports. They're all very sizable. How do these rank in history? Are these also the worst ever?
Let me check. For a while, Warren, I only have the production side. Okay. For the expenditure side, household final consumption expenditure for the second quarter dropped by 15.5%. And based on our record, this is the lowest since the beginning of the series. Prior to this, negative was quarter three of 1985, minus 2.8%. Gross capital formation, the drop is 53.5%, and this is the lowest since quarter one of 1985, which recorded at 54.6%. Export of goods and services, 37% drop. This is also the lowest since the beginning of the series, 1981.
Thank you, Yusek.
Thank you, Sir Warren. Any further questions? Mr. Bendevera.
So I'm just curious, sir, if this will be just one of the few times that we don't have a representative from NEDA at the PSA's press conference, because of course, in the past press conferences, we had the NEDA secretary or the director general in there. But perhaps because they have the separate press con, but moving forward, will this be the setup if, for example, if the GDP is really a bad number? Thank you.
Well, the information I got is that Secretary Carl will join the economic managers press conference at 11 o'clock. So that is the information that I received.
Thank you, Sir Ben.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next question. Okay, if there are no further questions, we thank everybody for participating in today's press briefing on the second quarter 2020 national accounts or gross domestic product. Thank you very much. And you may refer once again to our Facebook page for the video of the live stream and highlights on our Twitter page. Data can be downloaded from psa.gov.ph. Thank you very much and good morning.